Hey there, Alex Kidman here, and on my head I've got the Suunto Aqua headphones. Let's get into the review. But before we start, a couple of important disclaimers. First of all, Suunto sent me the Suunto Aqua headphones for review. I didn't buy them. That gets them a review, nothing else. They have no oversight over my review, and my words are my own. Secondly, while these are a set of headphones designed to help competitive swimmers improve their swimming strokes, I'm not a competitive swimmer, not even close to it. So those features I really haven't looked at because I'd have to become a competitive swimmer in order to test those out. If that's what you're after, I'm sorry, this review is not going to be for you. But I have gone swimming, albeit briefly, in the Suunto Aqua headphones, as well as doing a lot of running in them. So let's get into the review. Open-ear headphones like the Suunto Aqua are a good choice for any kind of activity where you want to retain awareness, because the whole idea here is that you can hear the world around you. But of course, for swimming, that's quite difficult because most Bluetooth headphones, of course, aren't going to work underwater, but also they're just going to die as soon as you put them in water. Not a good time. And like the very similar Shox OpenSwim Pro, the Suunto Aqua are designed to combat this because the headline feature here is IP68 water resistance. Now, you do have to be careful here. I've got a whole video about how water resistance is not the same thing as waterproofing, but these certainly are broadly swim-proof, with the caveat that that water resistance will degrade over time, and it's a really good idea if you've been in a chlorinated or salt pool to give them a thorough rinsing after you've been swimming in them, so to help that water resistance retain over time. Design-wise, these follow the classic pattern of having loops that go over your ears with a mix of controls on the left and right sides. On the right side, you'll find volume and power buttons. On the left side, there's a multi-function button. These are fine. My one complaint really after several weeks of testing is that the multi-function button is quite flat, and I guess that's to do with its water resistance, but my issue there is that it can be quite hard to accurately press, especially for some of the double tap or triple tap motions that you can use with it while you're exercising. Maybe a little protrusion would have made that a little bit easier to manage. The obvious competitor here are the Shox OpenSwim Pro headphones that I've previously tested. Those are slightly lighter than the Suunto headphones, although it's not a weight problem that's massive because the design of these means that most of the weight kind of sits behind your ears. So what does that mean for overall comfort? Good question, Alex. Well, I've just done a 5k run, which is why I'm kind of red and sweaty with the Suunto Aquas on. And they're reasonable enough. I've been using them for running for the past couple of weeks, actually. And they work, they're comfortable enough. Certainly, if you were just a runner, and I am mostly just a runner, then a dedicated running pair is probably a better idea than a swimming pair. These really are swim first, run second. But if you do both, of course, or if you do triathlons, then yeah, they'd meet the grade. They're comfortable enough, they're workable enough, and obviously having that extra hearing ability for vehicles around you or other people or whatever, that's also quite useful too. In terms of colour choices, they come in black or lime blue. It's the lime blue that they've sent me. They certainly stand out a fair bit. I think they're a nicer look than the plain black, but obviously your tastes can vary a little there. In the box, along with the headphones, you also get a simple felt-style carrying bag. I'm not sure that's the best for waterproofing, but yeah, maybe it'll do, as well as connection cable and the actual connection dock, which I'll talk about when I talk about the battery a little later. The Suunto Aqua headphones connect over Bluetooth, and you could just fire them up and pair them to your Bluetooth device of choice and be on your way. They will work like that. But the core idea here is that you would use them with the Suunto app for iOS or Android. And this is a very broad multi-function app that works with a whole bunch of Suunto devices. My one big complaint here with the Suunto app is not that it doesn't do enough tracking across various other sports, it's that the headphones kind of feel like they're a bit of a second-class citizen because they're not actually within the main UI at all. You've actually got to go into your profile settings, and that's where you'll find the actual headphone settings part. It just makes them feel a bit lesser. If there's a big button there that says, hey, this is where all the watches are, why isn't there a headphones one? Or why don't the headphones at least come off that? A devices button, in other words. It's not great. It's kind of hard to find first time out. As with other Suunto devices, this is all about training in the sport of your choice. And as I've already said, I haven't really done a whole bunch of swim training with these because I'm not a competitive swimmer. I should note, these actually only really do swim training and tracking. If you want other forms of tracking, you'd need some other kind of smart wearable. Obviously, Suunto would prefer it was one of their watches. From within the app, you can update the firmware, enable multi-point, change the audio mode, and also do a couple of tests to check your ability to jump and to check the flexibility of your neck. And having done those, well, it turns out I'm not Spider-Man. Who knew? I get the utility of these, especially for swimmers where flexibility is going to be a big thing in terms of your ability to continue to compete at the highest level. Again, I'm not one of those kinds of people. If you are, more power to you. You can also set up motion tracking and go somewhat hands-free. Now, this is quite limited. It's basically just call, answer, and reject and skipping to the next track in your music playlist. Although, given the dodgy flexibility of my aging neck, maybe it's for the best that they didn't want me to, tilt my head rapidly 5 times in order to change the volume up. That's probably for the best. While Bluetooth support is all fine and peachy, most swimmers will be aware that Bluetooth itself doesn't work all that well, or frequently not at all, when you're underwater. And the Suunto Aqua does the same thing that the Shokz OpenSwim Pro does here. It's got onboard storage, 32 gig of it, for your own music files. And with this, you can, of course, then opt for an offline playback mode that doesn't need any kind of wireless connection, so you can continue listening while you're swimming. They even have an underwater audio mode, which worked reasonably well for the limited quantity of swimming I was able to do. If you're wondering why there's no video of me swimming, well, that's because I'm swimming by myself in a public pool, so it'd look weird to film myself. Plus, I'm swimming, so I'm not exactly sure how I'm meant to hold the camera and swim at the same time. Plus, I'm a pretty dreadful swimmer. No, I'm not going to leave the phone or camera by the side of the pool to film me that way, because it would not be there when I got back, and I think we all know that. So that's why. But I digress. Outside of the underwater audio mode, there's also just a regular and outdoor mode. I would suggest you stick it into outdoor mode. That punches up the bass a bit. As with most open-ear headphones, the audio is a little bit better when you've got that kind of richer soundscape to play with, but in-air is still absolutely going to knock it out of the park if audio fidelity is what you're after. There are limitations to what you can do with bone conduction. What about microphone quality? Well, that I can put to the test. Well, they sound like this. So this is literally just me connecting via Bluetooth to a Mac to record my voice on the Suunto Aqua headphones. Obviously, your mobile network could also play a role in how well you're heard. So offline music playback is there, but it's problematic. And it's problematic for a couple of reasons. Now, a lot of people, of course, will just have streaming music subscriptions, your Spotify's, your Apple Music's, that kind of stuff. Obviously, that's not offline, and that does not transfer to this device in that way. But what you can do is you can plug it into a PC or a Mac and just copy over MP3 files if you've still got that style of music to them for playback. So all fine and peachy keen? Well, not exactly. For a start, you can't have any subfolders. It just won't recognize anything in there. Also, because I guess Suunto recognizes that some people might not have music, there's helpfully a range of music already on the headphones when you get them, but you can't do anything with those. You cannot copy them off, and that's fine. Copyright exists, it's a thing. But you also can't actually delete them. You can't tell them to ignore them. They're part of the generalized mix. And that's really annoying. I really deeply wish, even if you don't want people infringing on copyright, Suunto, give us a checkbox in the app that just says, look, ignore these songs are here, I don't want to hear them. Because you can't do that right now. You can't do anything with them. They're taking up space, and they're just not to my style or taste. Obviously, I don't wish to be disrespectful to the musicians involved, but I just would prefer to have my own music, my own choices. But even there, it's limited. Because as I said, no subfolders, but also seemingly no playlist support. Now, this is confusing because Suunto's app suggests that within the app, you should be able to create playlists for the headphones. If anyone can tell me how this is done, let me know in the comments below, because I cannot work it out for offline playback. I have tried to create within the app, and I can't find anywhere to do that. I have created standard M3U playlists for the music I've got on these headphones, and it ignores them. It just doesn't seem to think that they exist, because that should be a way to bypass those embedded tracks, but it just doesn't work. It's really quite frustrating, or at least it's frustrating to me. Your own tolerances may vary, but I wish it was just that little bit more flexible, or it was clear how you create those playlists in the first place. On the battery front, Suunto rates the Suunto Aqua headphones as good for up to 10 hours of battery life, which actually gives it an hour over the Shokz comparable OpenSwim Pro headphones, which only do 9, although both only do 6 if you're talking about offline playback. So running the MP3 player chews up a bit more battery power, it turns out. Suunto has an additional trick up its sleeve here, however, because the Suunto Aqua headphones use a custom charging dock to connect. That then just connects through standard USB-C, which is quite welcome. I don't like custom connectors, basically because if you lose them or if you break them, then you're kind of stuffed. And so I have to criticize Suunto for that. But I will say they have borrowed a trick here from the wider Bluetooth headphones world, which is quite smart. And that's because the charging dock is itself a battery. It'll give you another 2 charges of the Aqua headphones. So in theory, you could get up to 30 hours of playback, although you'd have to take a brief break between your 10-hour swims. I'm not up for a 10-hour swim, just in case that wasn't clear. You'd have to take a brief break while they actually recharge the headphones. I suspect all but the most brutal of swimming coaches would probably tell you that was a wise thing to do anyway. So should you buy these Suunto Aqua headphones? Well, look, not unless you're really seriously into your swimming, and especially, I suppose, if you're already in the Suunto ecosystem of devices and tracking, then yeah, they would make a degree of sense. The battery life is pretty decent overall. The audio is what you'd expect for open-ear headphones broadly. I would say that some of the running sets that I've tested in the past are maybe a little bit better on this score. The offline music playback is a nice function to have, but I wish it worked a whole lot better than it does. They're certainly not 100% for me and the kind of exercise that I do, but if you are a competitive swimmer, they are worth considering because honestly, in this open-ear space, you don't have a whole lot of really good high-quality choices.